I was heading to my daughter's house for dinner, looking forward to a warm family evening, when my lawyer's message came through. Call me immediately. My heart skipped a beat. I dialed his number, and what he told me about my daughter stunned me. You won't believe what she intended. I was focused on the quarterly reports when my phone buzzed. Michael's name appeared on the screen. Call me immediately. Family emergency. The pen slipped from my fingers. 30 years building Hansen Tech, and I had never seen Michael Reed label anything about family as an emergency. I dialed back before the screen went dark. Why? His voice was sharp and controlled. I need to warn you, Ida has filed a lawsuit. She wants you declared incompetent to run Hansen Tech. The words hit like ice. What are you saying? That's impossible. She's my daughter. She has gathered a group of shareholders who claim you've lost your edge due to emotional instability, he said. I sank into my chair by the floor-to-ceiling windows. Seattle's skyline blurred through the glass, the same view I had watched for decades while building this company for her. How much time do we have? The hearing is in 1 week. We need to act fast. My mouth went dry. 1 week? She had been planning this for months. The documentation was extensive financial records showing allegedly erratic decisions, testimonies from board meetings. I paced between my desk and the window, rain streaking the glass like tears I could not shed. What testimonies? I asked. They cite emotional outbursts, questionable strategic choices. They're portraying you as someone losing control. That's absurd. Yet even as I spoke, doubt crept in. Had I shown too much passion in recent meetings, defended old strategies too fiercely? I know, but they have paperwork, why, lots of it. The office suddenly felt smaller, the awards on the walls and photos of groundbreaking ceremonies meaningless if my own daughter could take it all away. Who else knows? The filing is sealed for now, but the shareholders she recruited, James Corbin, Patricia Wheeler, 3 others, are meeting tomorrow. I gripped the phone tighter. She had promised them higher dividends under new leadership. Her leadership. The betrayal cut deeper than any business loss I had faced. Ida, my brilliant and ambitious daughter, the one I had groomed to take over one day, but not like this. Never like this. What do you need from me? Everything. Financial records, medical documentation proving your competence, character witnesses. We are building a defense from scratch in 7 days. I closed my eyes. 48 hours ago I had been planning to mention her promotion to CEO within the year. Now she was trying to destroy me. Why? Are you there? I'm here. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Schedule whatever meetings are necessary. I'll clear my calendar. Good. And why? Do not confront her yet. We need to understand their strategy first. After hanging up, I sat in the growing darkness. Seattle's lights sparkled below, but the warmth had gone from my life. I gathered my coat, briefcase, and keys mechanically, the same routine I had followed for 30 years, yet everything had changed in a single call. The elevator descended silently. 50 floors down, my legs felt unsteady. In the parking garage, I sat in the car for 10 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to make sense of it all. Ada was having dinner with her family tonight, our weekly tradition. Should I go, pretending nothing had happened, sitting across from her and making small talk while she plotted my downfall? Or should I see her face, study her expressions, understand who my daughter had become? I started the engine and joined Seattle's evening traffic, heading toward Bellevue in search of answers I wasn't sure I wanted. Ada opened the door before I could knock. She stood there in a cream sweater, her smile perfectly measured. "Dad, right on time." Her hug felt rehearsed. "Come in, it's freezing outside." I searched her face for cracks in the mask, found none. "Sophie has been asking about Grandpa all day," she said, leading me through the foyer. She had drawn another picture for me. The house smelled of roasted chicken and deception. I followed her into the open kitchen, where Trevor was setting the table. He looked up, nervous energy written all over him. "Why, good to see you." His handshake lingered too long. "Can I get you a drink? Wine? Something stronger?" "Wine's fine." I watched Ada move around the kitchen efficient, controlled the same way she ran board meetings. Sophie ran in, her overalls streaked with paint. "Grandpa," I scooped her up, grateful for something pure in this house of facades. "What's this about a picture?" "It's us at the office," she said, thrusting a crayon drawing toward me. "That's you at your big desk, and that's me in the spinning chair." Stick figures colored in shades reminiscent of Hansen Tech's logo, innocent and trusting, everything her mother was not. "It's beautiful, sweetheart." I kissed her forehead, catching Ida's gaze across the room. Something flickered. Guilt, calculation. "Sophie, wash your hands for dinner," Trevor said, his tone too cheerful. Ida moved between the stove and counter with practiced precision. "Dad, you look tired. Maybe you should rest more," she said, the loaded question clear. "I'm keeping sharp. By the way, how's the finance department?" I asked. She paused, wooden spoon half raised. "Let's not talk about work at dinner," she said. "Family time is sacred." Trevor cleared his throat. "Sophie drew that picture during art today. She's been talking about visiting the office again." "Maybe next week," I said, wondering if I'd even still have an office then. Sophie climbed into her booster seat. "Grandpa, tell the story about the first computer." "Which one, sweetheart?" "When you built the company in the garage." I glanced at Ida. She was slicing chicken with surgical precision. "That was before your mommy was born. We had nothing but ideas and determination." "And Grandma Elna helped," Sophie added. Ida's shoulders tensed slightly. "Yes," I said softly. "Elna helped with everything." Silence stretched until Trevor turned on soft classical music. Dinner unfolded with forced normalcy. Sophie chattered about preschool. Trevor discussed his architectural projects, and Ada asked polite questions about my health and habits, every word like reconnaissance. "The chicken is excellent," I said. "Mom always said cooking is about love, not perfection," Ada added, another loaded statement. "Yes, she was wise about priorities," I replied. Her fork clicked against her plate. The accusation lingered. Sophie noticed the tension. "Grandpa, why are you sad?" "I'm not sad, sweetheart, just thinking." "About what?" "How much I love our family dinners." Ida's eyes met mine, and for a moment I glimpsed the little girl who once waited by the window for me to come home, but the moment passed. "More wine?" Trevor asked, reaching for the bottle. Dessert, coffee, Sophie showing me drawings, normal rituals, masking extraordinary betrayal. At 8:15, I rose. "Thank you for dinner. As always, perfect." Ida walked me to the door. "Dad, are you sure you're okay? You seem different tonight." Her concern seemed real. Maybe she convinced herself it was for my good. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just reflecting on what Hansen means to me, to our family." Something shifted in her expression, guard rising. "Drive safely. Roads are slick." I kissed her cheek. She didn't pull away, but neither did she lean in. "Good night, Ida." "Good night, Dad." The door closed softly. Rain began again as I stood on the steps. Through the window I saw her clearing dishes methodically, planning my destruction. I parked overlooking Lake Union, city lights reflecting off black water. Hands shaking, I called Michael. "Why, how was dinner?" "Like a performance. She knows how to feign concern while stabbing me in the back." Rain drummed on the windshield. "Tell me everything." "She's been preparing 6 months. Records of your emotional outbursts at meetings." "What outbursts? I've always controlled myself." "Like the Anderson acquisition meeting you raised your voice rejecting their offer." She documented it as irrational, anger threatening company relationships. I remembered the meeting passion, not anger. Financial decisions, charity partnership, employee retention programs, costly but meaningful projects. She frames them as emotional rather than strategic. My throat tightened. Those were smart decisions. Timeline? Hearing next Friday. If she wins, temporary control while you undergo evaluation. If you refuse, shareholders can vote you out anyway. She has the backing. I drove through empty Seattle streets, processing her betrayal precision attacks, dismantling decades of work. At home, I climbed to my study. 30 years of memories lined the walls, awards, photos, proof of a successful life. I opened my safe and retrieved Elna's letters, written in her final months, warning me about priorities. I had dismissed them then. I found the folder marked Ida Personal Records School Reports, photos from company events where she stood beside me, proud. When had pride curdled into resentment? My computer chimed encrypted email from Michael. Legal documents, Ida's formal complaint, dense with accusations, medical notes citing emotional volatility, resistance to modern strategies, diminished cognitive flexibility consistent with early-stage dementia or grief-related depression. They were using Elna's death against me. I poured 3 fingers of scotch, reading on-character witnesses testifying to my declining judgment, financial analysts framing my decisions as emotional, medical experts suggesting intervention. A full-scale character assassination under the guise of care. At 1 a.m. I closed the laptop, sat in darkness. Rain pelted the windows. Elena's photograph watched from my desk. She had known this day might come and tried to prevent it. She didn't understand why I loved the company so much. But I didn't love the company more. I had built it for them. Every late night, every sacrifice, for our family's future. I opened my phone and started taking notes. Allies, strategies, ways to prove my competence, while dismantling her case. If Ada wanted war, she would get one, but she had underestimated me. I hadn't built Hansen by surrendering. I built it by outthinking them. Dawn was still hours away, but I felt a stirring beyond anger or hurt strategy. Purpose. My daughter had declared war on everything I had built, everything I was. It was time to remind her who had taught her how to fight. The elevator climbed deliberately towards Steve's floor. I shifted the briefcase containing 2 weeks of evidence. Time to stop reacting and start taking command. Steve Wilson's corner office was 3 floors down from mine. Same building, same view of Lake Union, a different perspective on everything else. His assistant waved me through. "He's expecting you, Mr. Hansen." Steve looked up from quarterly projections, reading glasses perched on his nose, 60 years of friendship reflected in familiar blue eyes. "Why, perfect timing. I was just reviewing. We need to talk." I placed the briefcase on his conference table with a deliberate thud. "Close the door." My tone made him move quickly. The door clicked shut. "What's wrong?" "Ada is trying to have me declared incompetent." Steve's expression shifted through confusion, disbelief, and concern in seconds. "That's impossible." I opened the briefcase, spreading legal documents across the polished table like battle plans. "She filed suit 2 weeks ago for temporary control while I undergo a psychological evaluation." Steve sank into his chair. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I needed to understand the full scope first." I pulled out a shareholder analysis. "Look at this." The document mapped our investors like a military campaign: green for loyal, red for convinced by Ida, yellow for undecided. Too much red. "Corbin's already committed," I said. I mentioned Patricia Wheeler, too, 3 others. Steve studied the names. "Why? She promised Corbin a 15% dividend increase based on what? Staff cuts, automation, AI implementation. It will destroy the company culture we've built over 30 years. I felt cold settle in my chest. But young shareholders don't see this. They care about numbers. Steve had been monitoring internal communications through co-founder privileges. His intelligence painted a clear picture. Ada had been methodical. Each shareholder approached with tailored promises, profit projections for Corbin, efficiency studies for Wheeler, modernization speeches for others. "She's selling them a fantasy," I said, "a profitable fantasy." Steve pulled up email chains. "Look at these revenue forecasts. Aggressive, unrealistic, predicated on firing half our senior staff and automating customer service." "This isn't innovation," I said. "It's corporate vandalism. Try explaining that to shareholders watching tech stocks soar." I spread financial reports across the table. Actual performance over 3 years, steady growth, consistent profits, satisfied employees. 12% annual growth, 94% retention rate, industry-leading customer satisfaction. Eda promised 25% growth through strategic restructuring. The phrase made me sick. Corporates speak for destroying lives. What about Corbin? Is he completely lost? Steve leaned back. Maybe not. He respects long-term stability, but fears missing the next big wave. Then we remind him what happens to companies chasing every trend. I pulled out a folder marked Competition Analysis. Companies following Ida's strategy had imploded within 5 years. Remember TechFlow Industries? Steve nodded grimly. Automated everything. Stock price tripled, then customer service collapsed. Exactly, now worth 20% of their peak. We spent the next hour mapping strategy, which shareholders could be swayed, what evidence would convince them, how to present our case without appearing desperate. Outside, February rain intensified perfect weather for corporate warfare. There's something else, Steve said quietly. Her legal representation, Laura Blake. Michael briefed me. She's aggressive, turns courtrooms into theater. Then we give her a better show. Steve's computer chimed. Board meeting next week, routine quarterly review. She'll make her move there, I said, unless we move first. I closed the briefcase but left the analysis documents spread across his table, visual evidence of our campaign. Schedule a private lunch with Corbin this week. Show him what happens to investors who bet against proven leadership. Steve reached for his phone. Thursday, Morton's downtown. Neutral ground. Perfect. 2 hours later, I had transformed from victim to general. Ida wanted war. She would get one. But she had underestimated her enemy. I hadn't built Hansen Tech by surrendering. I built it by outthinking them. Michael's law office occupied the 20th floor of Columbia Center, mahogany and leather radiating authority. I arrived 10 minutes early, briefcase heavy with Steve's intelligence. The receptionist offered coffee. I accepted. This would be a long morning. Mr. Hansen. Michael appeared in his doorway. Ready for war. His conference room had been transformed into a command center. Ida's lawsuit documents covered one wall, our defense materials the other. Between them lay empty space, waiting for strategy. Show me everything, I said. Michael lifted a thick folder, Ida's official filing, 47 pages of accusations, evidence and medical recommendations. Each passionate defense of company values reframed as emotional instability, every innovative risk repositioned as declining judgment. She claims you've lost touch with market reality, he said. Our profits grew 12% last year, but she credits her initiatives, not yours. Classic rewriting history with herself as the hero. Her evidence? I asked. Michael pulled out a separate stack. 6 months of documentation, meetings where I allegedly showed inappropriate emotional responses, financial decisions labeled as sentiment over strategy, the Anderson acquisition, the charity partnership with Elena's foundation, the employee retention program, good decisions dismissed as emotional weakness. And her lawyer, Laura Blake, he added. His expression darkened. 38 wins in 42 competency hearings. She specializes in family business disputes, turning loving fathers into perceived declining patriarchs. I studied her photograph on Michael's computer. Sharp features, predatory smile, a career built on dismantling family legacies, known for courtroom theatrics. Then we write a better script, Michael said, spreading out our own evidence. Ida's promises to shareholders, unrealistic financial projections, email chains showing her 6-month deception campaign. We're filing a countersuit for breach of fiduciary duty, conspiracy to defraud shareholders, intentional infliction of emotional distress. The last felt personal, and it was. Will it work? It forces her to defend her actions instead of just attacking yours. Michael produced the counter-lawsuit, 23 pages of legal accusations wrapped in corporate language. She'd be furious. Good, angry people make mistakes. I signed the papers with steady hands, cold determination replacing any trembling. When do we file? Today. Blake will have it by 5 p.m. Outside rain had turned to sleet. February in Seattle perfect weather for legal warfare. One more thing, Michael said. Hearing date, March 15th, 3 weeks. I calculated rapidly enough time to prepare witnesses. Michael's assistant interrupted. Mr. Wilson is here for the 11:30 appointment. Steve entered, briefcase in hand. Ready to save our company, he said. The three of us stood around the table, reviewing the evidence of family betrayal spread across polished mahogany. Ada wanted legal games. Now she would learn the rules. Outside, Seattle's skyline dissolved into gray mist, but inside, clarity crystallized. War had been declared. Lines had been drawn. It was time to remind my daughter who had taught her to fight. I arrived 15 minutes early, choosing a table by the window overlooking the controlled chaos of the market. March in Seattle offered tentative spring warmth. Vendors hawked early flowers beneath gray skies. The coffee was bitter, fitting for the morning. Ada appeared at precisely 2:15, dressed in a charcoal business suit, armored for battle. She surveyed the cafe before approaching, assessing exits and potential witnesses. "Dad," she said, sitting across from me, keeping her distance. "Thank you for coming. Your message said it was important." I studied her face. She looked tired, thinner than at our last dinner. Carrying deception was heavy, even for her. "How's Sophie?" "Fine. Asking about you." The words carried accusation, reminding me of my role as absent grandfather, workaholic father, the man who prioritized business over family. "And Trevor?" "Busy with his projects," she said, voice carefully neutral. We danced around the real conversation, two combatants testing defenses. "Ada, why didn't you come to me directly?" A flicker crossed her face. Surprise? Guilt? Still maintaining the lie. "I was concerned about your ideas for the company, your plans. When I tried, you were always busy with the company." There it was, the heart of everything. "I built this for you." Her laugh was bitter. "No, Dad, you built it for yourself. I was just an addition." The accusation hit like a physical blow. "That's not true, is it?" She leaned forward, anger breaking through her careful control. Every family dinner interrupted by business calls. Every vacation cut short for meetings. Every school play missed for board presentations. Memories surged. Eleanor's disappointed faces, Ada's resigned acceptance when I missed her college graduation. I thought I was providing for our family. She claimed I was feeding my ego. Silence stretched. Market vendors called their prices outside. Normal life carried on while we dissected 35 years of accumulated hurt. "I want to modernize the company, but you block all my initiatives," she said. "I want to preserve what works." "What works?" Her voice rose slightly. "Dad, we're falling behind. Tech companies are outpacing us. Our systems are outdated, our methods antiquated." "Our methods built something lasting," I said. "Something dying," she countered. She pulled out her phone, showing charts and projections painting Hansen Tech as a dinosaur. Automation could raise efficiency by 40%. AI implementation could cut operational costs in half. Remote work could expand the talent pool globally and eliminate half the workforce. Some positions would be restructured, destroyed. "You're talking about destroying lives, families, people who've given us decades of loyalty." Her jaw tightened. "Business isn't about loyalty, Dad. It's about results." "When did you become so cold?" "When I realized sentiment doesn't pay dividends." The words hung between us like a blade. This wasn't my daughter speaking, it was someone else entirely. "Who taught you that?" "You did," she said, "every time you chose the company over us, every time success mattered more than people. I felt something fracture inside me, not anger, not betrayal, but understanding. You never meant a lot of things, Dad." She gathered her phone and purse. "But intentions don't change results." "Ada, wait." She stood, looking down at me with Elena's eyes in a stranger's face. "I'm not the little girl waiting by the window anymore. I don't need your approval. I don't need your permission. I don't need your company. But you want it. I want to save it from you." She turned and walked toward the exit, heels clicking on the hardwood. At the doorway, she paused. "Give Sophie my love." Then she was gone, disappearing into the market crowd. I sat alone with cold coffee and colder understanding. My daughter wasn't just taking my company. She was taking revenge for 35 years of perceived neglect. And perhaps she was right. The courthouse steps were slick with morning rain. I climbed slowly, briefcase in hand, watching Ida's legal team assemble like predators. Laura Blake stood at the center, sharp suit gleaming under Seattle's gray skies. Ida herself wore navy blue, conservative, competent, the beautiful daughter protecting family assets from a declining patriarch. She did not meet my eyes. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with quiet energy. Shareholders filled the gallery. Reporters and attorneys, drawn by public family drama, took notes. Michael touched my arm. "Remember, stay calm. Answer clearly." Judge Harrison called court to order. 70 years old, silver-haired, with a reputation for no-nonsense proceedings. Case number 2025. 347. Hansen vs. Hansen Tech, Incorporated. Laura Blake rose like a striking snake. Your Honor, this case concerns an aging executive whose judgment has been compromised by grief and stubbornness. She walked toward the jury box, gestures elegant, her performance masquerading as argument. The Mr. Hansen has lost the ability to make rational decisions. His emotional attachment to outdated business practices threatens shareholder value and employee security. Documents flew across the screen, financial charts, meeting transcripts, 6 months of curated evidence. The plaintiff, Ms. Ida Hansen Miller, seeks temporary guardianship to protect the company her father built from his own declining capabilities. Blake's voice carried honey-coated poison, professional, persuasive, deadly. Then Ada took the witness stand. My daughter, brilliant and ambitious, sworn in under oath to challenge me. Ms. Hansen Miller, Blake began softly, please describe your father's recent behavior. My father is guided by emotions, not business logic, Ada said steadily. He makes decisions based on personal feelings rather than financial data. Can you give examples? The charity partnership with our mother's foundation. It costs $200,000 annually with no measurable return. When I suggested redirecting those funds, he became agitated. Agitated? Elna's memory reduced to a line item. What about strategic planning? He refuses to implement automation or AI, claiming it would destroy company culture. Meanwhile, competitors gain ground through technology. Blake nodded, feigning concern. How has this affected performance? We're stagnating. Growth is slowing. Efficiency lags behind industry standards. Lies wrapped in half-truths. Our growth had been steady, sustainable. Employees remained loyal because we treated them as people, not numbers. In your professional opinion, what does the company need? Fresh leadership, modern strategies, focus on profits rather than sentiment. The words struck like blows. This wasn't my daughter speaking. This was someone else entirely. Michael's cross-examination was precise. Ms. Hansen Miller, what was Hansen Tech's profit margin last quarter? 12%. And the previous quarter? 11.7%. So under your father's supposedly failing leadership, profits are rising. Short-term fluctuations don't prove long-term viability. And employee retention? 94% annually. Industry average, 67%. So your father maintains higher employee satisfaction while increasing profits. Retention may indicate resistance to necessary change. Michael's cold smile. Or exceptional leadership. Blake objected. The judge sustained, but the damage was done. James Corbin testified next, straightforward, profit-focused. We need leadership prioritizing shareholder value. Ms. Hansen Miller understands modern business realities. By the end of the morning session, I felt drained. Watching your daughter publicly dissect your competence required strength I didn't know I had. Michael squeezed my shoulder. Phase 1 complete. Tomorrow, we fight back. Outside, Seattle's spring rain continued. Ada walked past without acknowledging me, flanked by her legal team. My little girl, once waiting by the window for Daddy, now couldn't wait for me to disappear. My assistant knocked softly. Mr. Hansen, there's something you need to see. Sarah placed a folder on my desk marked Employee Communications. Confidential. Her face was grim. Ada had been holding private meetings, promising raises that could bankrupt us. I opened the folder. Meeting transcripts, emails, 6 weeks of secret promises, 20% raises for engineering, 30% for department heads, stock options that didn't exist. Where did you get this? People talk, Mr. Hansen, especially when promises sound too good to be true. Steve Wilson arrived as I reviewed the worst of it. His expression matched Sarah's. We have a problem, why? He dropped his briefcase on the table. Ida is approaching new shareholders, pension funds, investment groups, portraying you as an obstacle to explosive growth. Steve pulled printed emails. She's promising 20% raises to employees. Based on what? Magic, I muttered. She claims automation will save enough to cover it. The math doesn't add up. She's committing fraud. It gets worse. Steve powered up his laptop. I've monitored internal communications, found something about her lawyer. Laura Blake's face appeared on screen professional, sharp, attached to a news article. She had been sanctioned 2 years ago for suborning perjury, temporarily suspended from practice. My phone rang. Michael's number. Why, I have evidence that Blake violated ethical standards. What kind of evidence? She coached Ida on what to say, how to phrase accusations, witness tampering. The pieces fell into place. Ada's confident performance wasn't natural, it had been scripted. Michael continued, I found financial irregularities in Ada's account management. What irregularities? She transferred funds between accounts without your consent. 3 separate occasions. Total, $847,000. The number hit like ice water. For what? Legal fees, consultants, campaign expenses for her takeover bid. I looked at Steve. His expression mirrored mine. That's embezzlement. Technically unauthorized use of corporate funds, yes, but criminal behavior. Steve leaned forward. This could change the case. More than that, it could destroy her. The irony was sharp. My daughter had sought to prove my incompetence by committing criminal acts herself. I gazed out at Seattle's skyline, the city I built, where Elna had lived and died, where our family had grown and fractured. Michael, how do we present this? Carefully. We don't want to seem vindictive, just competent. And Blake's ethics violations? File with the bar and present to the judge simultaneously. Steve organized documents across the conference table, financial records, employee communications, email chains showing Ida's deception. The question is timing, I said. Next hearing is Monday. Blake will expect us on defense again. Instead, we attack. I studied the evidence spread across my office, 30 years of building a company, and my daughter had tried to destroy it with 6 months of lies. Lies eventually reveal themselves. Schedule a meeting with character witnesses. Prepare them for aggressive cross-examination. Steve nodded. Done. Patricia from accounting, David from engineering. They'll testify to your competence and her deceptions. What about the employees she made promises to? Most are confused. They trusted her, but the numbers don't add up. Late afternoon sunlight slanted through the office windows. Seattle in April could be beautiful when the rain stopped. I'll head home early, I said. Plan our presentation tonight. Steve gathered his documents. We have enough ammunition to sink a battleship. Let's hope we can aim it accurately. After they left, I sat alone. The silence felt different, not empty, focused. Tomorrow we would remind everyone who built Hansen Tech, and why it deserved better than my daughter's desperate ambitions. In court, tension crackled like electricity. Ada sat with Blake, confident after her prior performance. They hadn't seen what was coming. Judge Harrison called court to order. Mr. Reed, you may present additional evidence, Michael said, rising slowly, deliberately, a predator confronting wounded prey. Your Honor, Michael began, the plaintiff conducted unauthorized financial operations. Blake jumped. Objection. Beyond the scope. Overruled. Continue, Mr. Reed. Michael approached the evidence table like a surgeon. During discovery, we found 3 unauthorized transfers from corporate accounts. Total, $847,000. Ida's face paled. These funds financed her legal campaign against her father, without board approval, without documentation, without authorization. Michael projected bank statements, dates, amounts, recipient accounts. This constitutes embezzlement of corporate funds. Blake scrambled. Your Honor, these accusations are desperate attempts at discreditation. Desperate? Michael's smile was cold. These are bank records. Mathematics doesn't lie. He turned to Ada. She looked smaller somehow, the confident executive replaced by a trapped woman watching her world collapse. Furthermore, we have evidence of witness tampering. Blake's composure cracked. Preposterous. Ms. Blake coached her client's testimony, provided phrases, emotional cues, strategic answers. We have recordings. Judge Harrison leaned forward. Recordings, office security cameras with audio. Ms. Blake's coaching sessions had been inadvertently recorded during building security sweeps. The judge's expression darkened. I want those recordings reviewed immediately. When my turn came to testify, I felt calm, centered, ready. Mr. Hansen, Michael began formally, how long have you managed Hansen Tech? 30 years. I founded the company in 1995 with $50,000 borrowed against my house. Current annual revenue, $247 million. Net profit, $29.6 million. Employee count, consistent and loyal. Have you been declared incompetent by any medical professional? No, I underwent comprehensive evaluation last month. Cognitive tests, psychological assessment, full physical examination. All results normal for my age. Michael presented my medical reports, clean bills of health from 3 independent doctors. In your professional opinion, why is your daughter pursuing this legal action? I looked at Ita. She stared at her hands, unable to meet my eyes. She believes I've prioritized company culture over maximum profits. She wants automation and cost-cutting measures that would eliminate jobs and reduce benefits. Is profit maximization always the correct business strategy? No. Sustainable growth requires balancing profitability with employee satisfaction, customer loyalty, and community responsibility. How has this philosophy affected company performance? We've maintained consistent growth for 30 years. Employee retention exceeds industry standards. Customer satisfaction scores remain in the 95th percentile. Michael nodded. You've managed this company for 30 years and know every number, every employee, every strategic decision. Your daughter wants to sacrifice long-term stability for short-term gains. Blake's cross-examination was desperate. Mr. Hansen, isn't it true that you've resisted modernization? I've resisted reckless change. Technology serves business goals, not the reverse. Your daughter claims you're emotionally unstable. My daughter is young and impatient. She confuses passion with instability, conviction with stubbornness. She says, you make decisions based on sentiment. I make decisions based on experience. 30 years of building something lasting. Blake's attacks missed their target. The evidence was overwhelming. Ada had overplayed her hand spectacularly. When Corbin testified again, his confidence had evaporated. I may have been overly optimistic about projected returns. Are you still supporting Ms. Hansen-Miller's leadership bid? A long pause. I'm reconsidering my position. Blake's closing argument sounded hollow. Despite these allegations, the core issue remains, Mr. Hansen's resistance to necessary modernization. Michael's response was surgical. The core issue is whether a daughter can steal her father's company through lies, embezzlement, and witness tampering. Judge Harrison's face was granite. Order in the court. Given the serious allegations of financial misconduct and potential ethics violations, this case requires additional review. Ada finally looked at me. Her eyes were Elna's, filled with confusion and fear. The court will reconvene in 1 week for a final decision. As the courtroom emptied, Ada approached slowly. Dad. For a moment she looked like the little girl who used to ask for bedtime stories. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did, sweetheart. It did. She walked away with her ruined legal team, leaving me alone with the wreckage of our family. Victory felt hollow when it meant destroying your own daughter. All rise for the Honorable Judge Harrison. The courtroom stood shareholders, lawyers, family members, turned strangers. I felt Steve's reassuring presence beside me as the judge entered with the weight of his decision. Judge Harrison settled behind his bench, papers arranged with precision. Please be seated. 3 months of family warfare reduced to this moment. In the matter of Hansen versus Hansen Tech Incorporated, I have reached my decision. My heart hammered. Across the aisle, Ada sat rigid, Laura Blake's hand on her shoulder. After reviewing all evidence, testimony, and documentation, the court finds no grounds for declaring Mr. Hansen incompetent to manage his business affairs. Furthermore, evidence of financial irregularities and potential witness tampering raises serious concerns about the plaintiff's conduct. The case is dismissed. Mr. Hansen retains full control of Hansen Tech Corporation. Steve leaned forward. Justice has prevailed. But justice felt cold. It had come at the cost of my relationship with my daughter. Michael shook my hand professionally. Congratulations, Y. Your competency has been vindicated. Vindicated? The word tasted bitter. Across the courtroom, James Corbin approached, opportunistic as always. Mr. Hanson, I want to express full confidence in your continued leadership. Yesterday he supported Ada's revolution. Today he was loyal to me. Of course, James. Business as usual. Laura Blake gathered her papers with mechanical precision. Her career had taken a significant blow. Ada sat motionless, staring at her hands. The courtroom began emptying. Reporters scribbled notes, shareholders whispered strategies. Normal life resumed outside the spectacle of family warfare. Steve touched my arm. You did what you had to do. Did I? Or did I just prove Ada right about my priorities? I had protected what we built. The company was safe, my reputation intact, the shareholders reassured. Everything I fought for preserved except my relationship with my daughter. Ita stood slowly, gathering her purse. Trevor waited by the courtroom doors, relief evident on his face. The afternoon faded into evening as laughter and conversation filled the kitchen. The tension that had gripped the household for months was gone, replaced with cautious optimism and tentative joy. Ada moved with quiet authority, showing her plans for modernization on a tablet, while Sophie watched curiously, asking questions about robots and computers in the company. Dad, she said, will these machines help people too? Yes, sweetheart, I replied. They'll make work easier, safer, and more meaningful. People won't be replaced, they'll be empowered. Ida smiled at me, a mixture of pride and relief. I'll make sure every staff member knows that. Culture and innovation can coexist. Trevor joined in, pointing out ways the museum project could integrate technology without compromising creativity, while Sophie insisted that her own business plans for a lemonade stand might one day compete with Grandpa's company. We laughed. Dinner ended with small victories. Elena's recipes carried a sense of continuity, Sophie's excitement was contagious, and the family felt whole again, if only cautiously. Later, after the dishes were cleared, I found myself sitting beside Ida on the porch, watching Lake Union shimmer in the last light of day. I never wanted it to come to court, I said softly. I know, she replied, leaning her head on my shoulder. I was angry, and I wanted to prove myself. But maybe we can do it differently now, together. Together, I echoed, thinking of the shared leadership we had agreed upon. Equal partnership, innovation and culture side by side. Ada squeezed my hand. I think we can make it work, for the company, for us, for Sophie. I nodded. For Elena, too. The city lights began to twinkle across the water, reflecting the sense of new beginnings. In that moment, the battles, the courtroom, the lies, all of it, felt like a prelude to something greater. Not just survival, but renewal. And for the first time in years, I believed that our family, fractured though it had been, could thrive again, stronger, wiser, and together. The story closes on a note of gentle triumph, blending family reconciliation with professional renewal. The final scene captures warmth and optimism, shared leadership, restored trust, and the simple joys of domestic life after months of high-stakes conflict. Sophie's drawings symbolize a child's unfiltered hope, a mirror of the new beginning for both family and company. It's a satisfying ending because it balances resolution with realism, relationships are rebuilt cautiously, authority is shared thoughtfully, and the legacy of Eleanor inspires both care and ambition. The narrative ties together personal growth, corporate strategy, and emotional healing, leaving readers with a sense of continuity and possibility. If you want, I can create a succinct summary for video description that would engage viewers while highlighting the drama, conflict, and emotional payoff of the story. Do you want me to do that?